Hello and welcome to another Hollywood Wargaming Studios unit review for Star Wars Legion. Today we're going to be looking at the Phase 2 Clone Troopers. And this might be a bit shorter of a video because they are quite similar to the Phase 1 Troopers with just a few slight upgrades to them, but also a few limitations to how you can equip them. Right now the Phase 2 Clone Troopers do not have any unit upgrades or anything of the sort. It's just the bare bones unit that comes in the box. And until we get Echo and 5s coming out with the ARC Troopers, that's all you can run with them. So, first glance, not terribly different from the Phase 1s. You do get a nice training slot on this unit for free. On the Phase 1s, in order to get that training slot, you need to kind of pay the tax and get the commander along. But that's not the case here. The Phase 2s have it stock. The Phase 2s are essentially 2 more points per model than the Phase 1s. Which can add up, and I think a lot of people have hand-waved this unit away because of that. But I think those 2 points do go a pretty long way. So, on top of the addition to the training slot, we also have the Reliable special rule. Now, Reliable 1, at the start of activation phase, you gain 1 Surge token. That is big. I think that's something that's very overlooked by a lot of other people, because a lot of other people seem to think that clones kind of pull surges out of the wazoo, and they really can't. I think Obi-Wan and Rex both have 1 command card that can get them surges, which is nice, but you're not going to have that every turn. There's also aggressive tactics, but again, Obi-Wan especially, and Rex, I think Rex has 2 command cards where you're not going to be able to capitalize on aggressive tactics like you would with droids, because it needs to be face-up units. So having a few units in your army that can just generate surge tokens out of thin air and be able to share them around is a pretty powerful ability. On top of that, we have the basic stats. You have heavy weapons upgrade slot, you have personnel upgrade slot, you have 1 gear, and 1 grenade slot. You have the same 1 black dice for unarmed and 1 to 3 range with the DC 15A. You have 1 health and courage 2, so you get an extra courage. So basically with this unit, the extra 2 points you pay per model is going to get you the training slot, reliable, and the courage. And I would almost argue that those 2 points for the reliable, I would almost argue that's worth it. Maybe not. Maybe you would need the courage in there too. But all those 3 additions packed in together, and I think you do have a decent alternative to Phase 1s. Although, I will say this. When we get into strategy for this unit, I'm not sure if I would run an entire army of Phase 2s. So let's go ahead and look at their upgrades. Like I said, right now they don't have any upgrade kits. So basically, when you add stuff onto them, you're only going to have a couple options. You have the Z6 Trooper, which is essentially the same as a Phase 1 Z6 Trooper. 6 white dice, range 1 to 3, 27 points. 2 points more expensive than the Phase 1. It's the same thing. It's not bad. You could definitely take it if you want. To have your Phase 2 unit be the one that's, doing the nitty-gritty, dishing out the damage, this is probably your option. We also have the Mortar Trooper. Unfortunately, the Mortar Trooper doesn't really synergize with anything in the army right now. It is a critical 1 and suppressive and cumbersome. Critical 1, that's good. On a unit that has no surge to crits or surge to hits, it's solid to have a critical 1, but also not terribly fantastic. Suppressive's good when you have an army that's synergized with it, like the Imperials, but the clones have no real suppressive strategies right now. I'm sure once every blue moon, when the commander dies, your mortar might be able to lay on some suppression and rout some troopers, but I just don't really see it being much of a perk to pay for. That being said, it isn't on the directional firing base like the Short Troopers one is, and so you have a little bit more flexibility with it in that regard. But right now, I just don't see the Phase 2 Mortar Trooper being used really by anyone. It's got 2 black dice, range 2 to 4. That's fine. It's okay to add to your pool, but it just feels like a very casual play item for the time being. And maybe someday we'll have some suppressive tactics that pop up that makes the Phase 2 Mortar Trooper come back into play a little bit. We also have personnel, and currently, all you can add is another Phase 2 Clone Trooper. Just like in the Phase 1 video, there's kind of a debate to be had where you could add extra guys to every unit to beef them up, but why do that when you can just take a whole new unit and pad out your activations? So I would recommend skipping over that too. And then we have the training slot, and this is great that they have this. Like I said, with the Phase 1s, you need that captain in there to get it, but not here. Much like the phase 1s, you're going to be tempted to take offensive push and hunter, and both of those they're pretty good, but maybe not the best here. If you're dealing with a suppression army, maybe consider your phase 2s, because they have 2 leadership. Maybe consider taking endurance, and then they can go with their courage too and operate outside of your leadership bubble from your commander without having to worry about being routed. But you can't go wrong with offensive push or hunter. Those are going to help them up, especially if you bring the Z6. If you bring the Z6, I think hunter might be the way to go. But it's nice to have the option, even if there's no obvious, real fantastic synergies going on with it right now. And you can always just kind of get that offensive push token and share it with other units. Gear, this is going to be in the same road as the phase 1s. Targeting scopes, if you take the Z6, definitely do it. Otherwise, maybe skip it. Maybe take it if you get the Mortar too. Grappling hooks, environmental gear, terrain-based stuff, situational. Emergency stims, too expensive. Recon intel, decent, but I don't really know if you'd want to spend this slot on that. Maybe if the rest of your army is going to be very aggressive and you want to play aggressively, you can slap recon intel on there for cheap, but I don't know. Probably not worth it. And again, electro binoculars, more or less useless with clone sharing ability. There's just no point to taking it. And then we have the grenades. Same deal as the phase 1s. You're basically paying points for keyword at range 1 until you get to the fragmentation grenades. Then you're paying points for a little bit more lethal of an attack at range 1, which is definitely worth considering, especially if you want to play these guys hyper aggressively. But it's just this unit, even more so than the phase 1s, they're very expensive. Steer clear of just beefing them up with upgrades. And smoke grenades, ignore. So why bring phase 2s over phase 1s? You don't have the DC 15, which gives you that nice long-range firepower. What do you do with these guys? They seem a bit in limbo. Well, here's what I've been doing with my phase 2s. What I'll run them is a bone stock unit, and they will accompany my phase 1 squad that has the beefed up equipment and armor. That way, that's reliable 1 surge token every time these guys are up. They can get an aim token and a dodge order and also get that surge token. And they can pass those tokens off to your friendly unit. They just need to stick by them, buddy, and they'll be good. And then if things get hairy and if the enemies get too close, you fire support with a squad and you open up and you add them extra dice into that fire pool and you have a very, very lethal attack. I think these guys are great at playing that buffer support unit. And yeah, okay, they're a little bit more expensive than just having a phase 1 who would do that, but I think the surge token is absolutely worth it. And with that surge token, I would highly recommend using it defensively. Your phase 1 and 2 clone troopers are not cheap. They are elite units, and let me tell you, coming from playing Deathwatch in 40k, I knew what I was in for playing clones. I knew that I need to prioritize keeping my model counts up there and alive. Think about it. If you have a 4-man unit and you lose one of those clones, your unit just lost 25% of its efficiency. So save those surges for defensively to make your armor save basically go from a 4-up to a 3-up effectively. Obviously, there's a little bit more math to that, but trust me, it's going to show up and it's going to be good to save a guy. It'll really pad out your unit's time they spend on the fields. So I like running them with no heavy weapon, no personnel. I do like taking a training, but I prefer offensive push. When I'm playing support, I like to tap that, get that extra aim, so I can send it off to my other guys. It's decent, but you can ignore it because you can just take aim orders regularly. This is exhaustible, offensive push, and you will need to ready yourself to send it back up. But you could have those scenarios where you really need the aim dice out there, and you can tap it, take an aim order, maybe even take another aim order if you want. And that's 3 aim orders and a surge token coming off of this phase 2 unit. Very potent support. If you really want to get cheeky and you have this unit bone stock and you want them to be the supporting unit, you could throw fragmentation grenades on them. And if your enemies try and get close and they close and they wipe out your unit that this unit's supporting and they think they're just going to absolutely swarm and engulf this squad, you can be, hey, you're in range 1, I'm using these frag grenades now, I now have surge to crit, and I also have red dice, and I'm going to throw 4 of these right at your face. Again, it's a situational thing, but if you play an enemy who always ends up in your face like that, I think it would be fun to throw these in one time or a couple times as a sort of deterrent to keep them away. So that's basically how I run my phase 2 clones. No heavy weapons, no personnel, offensive push for training to crank out those aim tokens, and no gear. Very rudimentary, but that is what I use for my support unit instead of those phase 1 clones, because you can get that surge token out all the time, and I think it's very, very potent to have a reliable one. Now, in the future, when they flesh out this unit more, if they do release more upgrades for it, I could see this unit overtaking phase 1s and becoming a core army or being your heavy hitter unit. But right now, with just the Z6, I don't quite see it. Let's go ahead and walk through, though. If we were to build this as your heavy hitter unit, let's say you're facing rebels or droids and you want these guys to slap things around. I'm going to throw a Z6 trooper on this squad. So we'll have 5 guys with one Z6. I'll go ahead and throw Hunter on there, and then I'll go ahead and throw targeting scopes. That's just a kind of basic Z6 squad build, you know, where you get the Z6, you get the dice volume up there, you get Hunter, so you're shooting at things, and you're going to be getting that aim token every time you do. You get targeting scopes, so you're re-rolling an extra dice with your aim tokens. You have your surge on there. It's pretty good. That's going to be a pretty good unit to just chip away at your enemy. But at the same time, now you're up to 97 points. Something to consider. So that's how I would field phase 2 clone troopers. Do I think they're a necessity? Not at all. I think you can run with phase 1s all day. Vice versa, I think you might be able to run with just phase 2s. Might not be the best idea, might have a little more trouble than just doing phase 1s, but I think it's potential, and I really, really do like that reliable aspect to their unit. Now, the models for these guys are pretty cool. I got my hands on a box of them before the great shortage of 2020. I saw one going on eBay for about 60 bucks the other day, which is crazy. Crazy upsale. The head sculpts in here are fantastic. You get a ton of variety with heads. You get some helmetless. You get some of the cool Commander Cody style helmets and targeting visor things. It's a very, very cool kit. It's the first clone kit to come on sprues also. I do have a bit of a complaint with it though, where almost all of the models, their arms are connected at the elbows, unlike the phase 1 clones where their shoulders slot into the torso. That means you really can't kick bash these guys very much. It's nice that the Mortar and the Z6 guy come with a blaster to hold instead of the special weapon, but almost every guy is going to be monopose, especially your squad sergeant, which is kind of unfortunate because he is in a very, very specific pose that is going to be very, very hard for amateur kit bashers to make look unique. An obvious conversion to do would be to get the mortar hand holding the ball for the mortar, the droid popper, cutting that off at the elbow and then making it so that sergeant is hurling a grenade instead of like waving a squad on. I think that'll be an obvious one to do. But again, if you're fielding 4 to 6 of these units, you're going to have a lot of duplicates with them. It's not the biggest problem in the world, but it is a little unfortunate. That aside, it's a beautiful kit. I can't wait to get my hands on a second box of them. And I can't wait to see what you guys do on the tabletop with phase 2s. There's also a ton of great hobbying aspects from this with all the different regiments and how they did their markings in the phase 2. Because as you know, in phase 1, color represented rank. Phase 2, when they switched over, color went from representing rank to representing the regiment or battalion that the clones were in. So we have like the 212th that showed up on Utapau with Obi-Wan. We have Anakin's 501st that stormed the Jedi Temple. All these really cool color schemes, and I love seeing what people are going to do with these models and how they're going to show up on the tabletop. Anyways, that's my review for the Phase 2 Clone Troopers. Go ahead and hit subscribe if you want to hear more content like this, more unit reviews. Again, I'm going to be plowing through the Grand Army of the Republic, and then I'll either get to different factions in Star Wars Legion or different units in different games. I definitely want to do some bolt action. Maybe some 40k at some point. Leave a comment and like if you have any information on how you guys are going to run these, what you think about them. If you think they're too overcosted, if you think phase 1s are just through and through the better option, give some reasoning behind it, be civil, all that stuff. Thank you guys. We'll see you again next time.